Welcome into the latest installment of Back of the Net. I am your host, as always, Nick Burt. We are here to recap the weekend that was in the soccer world. Like I've said, usually mostly focused on Europe, but always can branch out into other things. We're going to start off not in Europe, though. We're going to start in Australia. We mentioned on Friday, Women's World Cup final was happening. No fancy graphic. It's just the logo, which it's going to be the last time you're seeing the logo, so enjoy it while it's there. Spain win the Women's World Cup final 1-0 over England. A Olga goal in the 27th minute, I believe it was, leads Spain to their first Women's World Cup title. It was quite an interesting game, to say the least. It turned into a ref show at the end because the refs always got to make it about themselves. Spain 100% deserved to win that game. England never really had a chance, as much as that pains me to say. They never really had a shot. Once Spain implemented their game plan, they got like two good shots on target in the first half before the first goal. It actually was only one of them. And it hit the goal post, bounced back into play, obviously. Play continued and went on from there. That was really the only real shot England had in this game. There was another shot within like the last 20 minutes, I think. It was Lauren James on the counterattack. And like she just kind of stuttered because she thought she was offsides, and then just kind of shot the ball and it bounced off the goalkeeper's gloves. She wasn't offsides, could have probably went in closer, maybe snuck the ball in the net, and we're talking a completely different game right now. But Spain completely dominated England from start to finish. Big congratulations to them for doing that. I wouldn't say it was the most exciting final, given just the absolute domination that Spain put on. Obviously, if you like that style of football, then yeah, it was an absolutely outstanding final. But if you want both teams having a real shot to win, then probably wasn't for you. Overall, I think it was a great tournament, given, it was probably the most competitive Women's World Cup there's ever been. We kind of saw more upsets than we usually do. It was the first one with the expanded field too, the first one with 32 teams. So overall, I think the tournament was a great success. So now it's on to 2027, and the location still to be determined, because apparently FIFA doesn't do that until 3 years before the Women's World Cup, compared to with the Men's World Cup when it's like 8 or 12. I mean, the U.S., Canada, Mexico found out they were hosting 2026 and 2018, so that's 8 years. We don't have a host right now for 2027, so yeah. Probably we'll see a lot more of the same that we saw this tournament coming in the next tournament. By that, I mean like the amount of upsets, the team's just continually getting better. 2027 probably going to do better than 2023, which did better than 2019, and so on. So given that, I just felt like we needed to open the show with that, given that that was probably one of the main games of the weekend. Felt like just, get it out of the way, mention it, talk about what happened, and now move over to Europe, where we can, start discussing the weekend that was we'll start with the Premier League. So Friday, we talked about that game on Friday. Forest with a 2-1 victory. Brentford beat Fulham 3-0 at the Craven Cottage. Liverpool win 3-1 at Anfield. We also talked about the Luton game being postponed due to the stadium not being finished. Brighton get a 4-1 win at Molineux against Wolves. Tottenham get a 2-0 win at home against Manchester United. Man City get a 1-0 win at home against Newcastle. Aston Villa completely dominate Everton 4-0. West Ham not really sneak away, but dominate a 3-1 victory against Chelsea, and Arsenal pull off a 1-0 win against Crystal Palace. So a few games I do want to, break down. We won't break down all the games. Kind of keep this a little bit shorter, but, still enough that it's in-depth enough for you to see. Brentford they put on an absolutely outstanding game at Fulham. I did not expect that. I think I said in the preview I expected that game to be a 0-0 draw or maybe a 1-1 draw. Brentford, what an outstanding performance for them. I think their expected goals were almost around 4, which is unheard of, kind of shows the amount of pressure they were putting on. They, like I said, they were just completely dominating that game. And am I a little bit worried about Fulham now that Alexander Mitrovic, their leading striker, has gone to Saudi Arabia? Yeah, a little bit. I still think they'll be fine. They got to get in a striker, though, before the window closes. I think that's going to be a huge problem for them. But, I was completely surprised by this Brentford team because they did not show that against Tottenham last weekend. So, just an outstanding performance from them. The Brighton game, 4-1 for them, their second 4-1 win in a row. A lot of people, I feel like, are taking Brighton way out of context here. I'm already seeing the articles pop up, Brighton are playing so well to start the season. They finished top 4. Can they compete for the title? 1, no, they can't compete for the title. 2, yes, they can compete for top 4, but they're not going to be up there. Why am I saying this? Because they just beat the 2 worst teams in the league 4-1 each time. It's the 2 worst teams in the league. If they're doing this against I'd say a Newcastle or maybe a Aston Villa, then yes, I'll start reconsidering those statements. These are the 2 worst teams in the league with 2 of the worst defenses in the league with 2 of the worst keepers in the league, if we're honest. I don't know why people are completely ignoring that fact and just are like, well, Brighton, 2 4-1 wins in a row, they must be contenders now. No, they played the 2 worst teams in the league. And it's a 38-game season. It's match week 2. Let's calm down a little here with, can they finish in top 4 takes? So I know a lot of people do it for clicks and stuff like that, but still, just stop. Tottenham Man United, if you want my full recap and thoughts on that game, go check out Top of the Perch on this channel. Gave a full breakdown of that game. Aston Villa with the 4-0 win. It's such a terrible performance for Everton. It is match week 2, and I just said, hey, it's too early to be doing stuff like that, but Everton look very, very bad. This is going to be the year that it's, getting sent down, relegated. They do not look good at all. They lose Dominic Calvert-Lewin to an injury again. He seemed to be that piece that could potentially keep Everton up the way that he plays when he's healthy. He's now not healthy. He got injured again, which is just absolutely terrible for a player that's been plagued by injuries, it seems, every single year. I am very worried about Everton's status for Premier League football come next year. And then the last game I do want to take a look at, because the Arsenal game, ref show, both sides, very bad. A penalty wins them the game, which was a penalty, but still, nothing really to take away from that. West Ham, Chelsea. What a game from West Ham, and what a disaster from Chelsea. Chelsea, the team that spent over, I don't even know the number. They've spent over $1 billion in the past 12 months, and they just, I mentioned it on the channel, they're buying just anybody that breathes and is young and good. there's just no cohesion within the team, and I just don't know what the end game is here. And I saw a stat that it's like in the past 25 Premier League games, Chelsea has won 5 Premier League games, and Everton, I think, has won 6 in that same span. That just goes to show you the absolute terrible run of form Chelsea is in. And I don't know what the fix is. Yes, it's match week 2. There's a lot of season to go. Just, you look at a team like Tottenham, who are under a new manager, just like Chelsea are. Look how much they've adapted to the game plan of Ange Postecoglou with Tottenham. And then look at Chelsea adapting to the game plan under Mauricio Pochettino. One of the teams you'd believe have been coached by that manager for like 5 years. The other one, yes, looks like a new hire. I don't know if that speaks more to Postecoglou's playing style with how they already look like just absolutely insane under him. And, they're only going to get better. And Chelsea just looking absolutely dead. I don't know if that's a coaching thing, if that's, getting it across thing, if that's a buying every player known to man thing. I don't know. Chelsea are in a really interesting spot. I don't know what's going to happen to them this year. If they keep playing like this, it's clearly going to be no European football once again for the Blues. So given that was the Premier League weekend that was. So let's head south to Spain now. Take a look at La Liga. We broke down the Friday games on Friday. We had Real Sociedad beat Celta Vigo, or they didn't beat them. It was a draw 1-1. Real Madrid beat Almeria 3-1. Osuna and Bilbao drew 0-0. Granola, 3-0 victory against Getafe. Barcelona with a 2-0 win against Cádiz. Betis and Atletico Madrid draw 0-0. Deportivo Alaves defeat Sevilla in a very interesting game this afternoon, 4-3. And Granada, lose 2-0 to Rayo Vallecano. Real Madrid can't really say much different there. Kind of expected that result. They look quite good. Barcelona with the 2-0 win in their first home game away from Camp Nou. Again, that was an expected kind of victory there. The Betis Atletico Madrid game, I was kind of surprised it was a 0-0 draw. Even though both teams kind of play that style of football, I was still surprised. I figured we'd get at least 2 goals, one on each side. I figured it would be a 1-1 draw. It was not. And then the game of the weekend in La Liga was this Deportivo Alaves Sevilla game. 4-3 scoreline, looks very nice. Sevilla, I don't know. They're obviously playing Champions League football again because they won the Europa League. They look like they're struggling right now, which is not going to help them come, September when they have 2 fixtures a week with Champions League thrown in there. I believe the group stage draw is next week, so we'll have that to cover on here too. That should be an entertaining time. Should be quite interesting. But yeah, so not a ton of results, like shocking results coming out of La Liga this week. Just, the main results there were those results. So moving on, we'll move on to Germany. So we're going northeast technically there. We broke down Friday's game on Friday. I keep saying that. This is the last time I'm going to say it because Serie A did not play on Friday. A 4-4 draw between Augsburg and Mönchengladbach. Bayer Leverkusen walk away with a 3-2 victory against RB Leipzig. Freiburg defeat Hoffenheim 2-1, I should say. Stuttgart beat Bochum 5-0. Wolfsburg get a 2-0 win against Heidenheim. Dortmund sneak away with a 1-0 victory against Köln. Union Berlin get a 4-1 victory against Mainz. And Eintracht Frankfurt get a 1-0 win against Darmstadt. So first game I want to talk about is this 4-4 draw between Mönchengladbach and Augsburg. I was stunned by this result. An 8-goal thriller in a game that I thought would have maybe 1 goal max. Augsburg, come out of the gate flying this year. I mean, last year they very much struggled, especially getting the ball in the net. So for them to put up 4 in their first game, quite surprising. Mönchengladbach, I don't really know what I expected from them this year. And, I mean, putting out a 4-4 draw, yes, that's showing bad on your goalkeeping. But, I mean, it's also showing you have that striking power to get those goals. So it's a double-edged sword there. Quite an interesting result there. I was very surprised by Leverkusen getting the win against Leipzig. I mean, I have Leipzig as my predicted title winners, even though I know it's not going to happen. I just kind of did that for the shock factor. I still think Munich probably win it. But if this was the year that it could happen, I feel like it would have been Leipzig. For them to lose 3-2 against Leverkusen, I feel like that's not a terrible result because I do think Leverkusen will be good this year, even though I don't think I had them in my top 7. Which just goes to show you my predictions are terrible, but what can I say? I expected more from Leipzig in this game, even though they got 2 goals. That was the shock of the week for me, was Leipzig losing that game. Even though both teams are kind of even right now, I was still shocked by that. Stuttgart putting up 5. A team that was in the relegation playoff last year, got a little bit better this summer. Putting up 5 against Bochum, who are a team that will be in that relegation fight this year. This could just be a bad team playing an even worse team, and Stuttgart are going to be near the bottom again this year. But, a 5-0 victory, that is quite something. The Dortmund game, only getting a 1-0 win against Köln. And that goal was in like the 87th or 88th minute. It was a bad game for Dortmund. Like, it just didn't look like they could get anything going. Obviously, they ended up getting the goal, but it was rough all around for them, and that was kind of shocking. But again, it's only match week 1. And then finally, Union Berlin get the 4-1 victory. I really liked their performance there. U.S. international Brendan Aronson had a great first game for them. He's on loan there from Leeds. I don't know if there's an option to make it permanent, but, if he keeps up the way that he played in this first game, Union Berlin are going to want to make that permanent. That's how good he was. Yes, they'll be up in the top 4 probably. That's what I predicted. I don't think they're competing for the title because it's probably a one-horse race, let's be honest. But I very, very interesting result there. So given that, we'll now travel down south again, this time to the southeast for the final league that we review here usually. Serie A, no games on Friday, so all these games are to be reviewed. Hellas Verona get a 1-0 victory on the road at Empoli. The defending Scudetto winners Napoli get a 3-1 victory against Fremont Calico. Fiorentina get a 4-1 victory against Genoa. Inter Milan get a 2-0 victory against Monza. AS Roma and Salernitana draw 2-2. Sassuolo lose 2-0 at home to Atalanta. Lecce get a 2-1 victory against Lazio. Udinese lose 3-0 to the Old Grey Lady Juventus. Torino and Cagliari draw 0-0. And AC Milan get a 2-0 win against Bologna. A great start for the defending Scudetto winners, Napoli. I mean, it's Fremont Calico. So, I mean, I recently promoted team, so kind of expected that kind of result from them, so can't really say I'm surprised there. Good way to start out of the gate. Fiorentina, great performance on the road at Genoa. I was not totally surprised, but yes, still a little bit surprised just given the final scoreline. Roma drawing 2-2 at home against Salernitana. I was quite surprised by that. I feel like Roma should be winning those games, and not getting that win. All the points are going to count for Roma this year, given that they're trying so desperately to get back to Champions League in that fight for that final spot. The fourth spot is going to be so close this year that, it's match week 1, but you could look back and say we probably should have won that game and we might be in a different position now. You don't want to have those regrets at the end of the season. Lee's getting a 2-1 victory against Lazio. Quite surprising there. I thought Lazio would come out much better. They didn't, and Lee's played that to their advantage, and they won that game. And then finally, AC Milan getting a 2-0 victory on the road. The biggest story on this side of the shores is that Christian Pulisic scores in his first game for AC Milan. Hopefully it's the start of, a good career at AC Milan for him. Hopefully one without a lot of injuries, given that he's very injury prone. And it was a stunning goal too. Hopefully there's more of that coming for him at AC Milan, and hopefully he can put that Chelsea chapter behind him and only become an even better club player. So that was Serie A for match week 1. We'll revisit all of those on Friday when we preview their next match weeks. Finally, we'll get to the last match we mentioned on Friday, which I made it the last match for today. Inter Miami win Leagues Cup, the first in this format Leagues Cup, because it wasn't the first Leagues Cup, it's the third. Inter Miami beat Nashville SC on penalties. Final was 10-9, I believe it was, on penalties. Drake Cardero, the goalkeeper, with the winning penalty for Inter Miami, and then making the winning save just moments later, brings Inter Miami their first title as a club. Also brings Leo Messi's first title here in the U.S. It's probably first of many, the way that they've played. A lot of people still forgetting that Inter Miami are still dead last in MLS right now, so they've got a ways to go to even make MLS playoffs. So given that, just wanted to mention that match really quick, given that it was something that happened and I mentioned it on Friday. So given that is it for Back of the Net tonight. We, like I said, we'll be back on Friday for your weekend preview. And once we do that, then it's back on Monday for a recap. Then by, I believe, the next week, so not this Friday, next Friday, that is when the Champions League draw will be. We'll recap all that. I felt like I need to mention that since I was on the show today. Should be quite an interesting run here before we get to that international break, which is creeping up ever so slightly. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you stumble across this video, like, subscribe. We keep content like this rolling almost every day. So make sure you keep your eyes locked on this channel, and we will see you back here for another episode of Back in the Net here on Friday.